everybody. Welcome. We'll give you a couple of minutes. If somebody can just do the usual Teams thing and give me a thumbs up to make sure that you can see me and hear me all right. That would be lovely. Andy, you can hear me. That's important. Thank you very much. And I might be sounding a little bit more nasally than normal, but that's nothing wrong with the audio. That's just something wrong with my sinuses. Okay, I'll just give you one more minute. And then we'll make a start. Okay. So let's make a start then. Hello everybody, welcome to this analytics webinar. We're going to talk to you all about how you can use analytics to help you predict, plan and perform better. I am Jackie Sherlock. Most of you probably know who I am. You've probably seen me on one of these sessions before, but I'm the product marketing manager here at Mercury. And today it gives me great pleasure to be joined by Andy Montague, who is the product owner who oversees the development of Mercury Analytics. Andy, hello, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Just a quick quick agenda of what we're going to do today. It's been a while since I last talked to you about Mercury Analytics, so I'm going to start by just having a quick reintroduction to what is in the analytics packages and why they can be so impactful to you. We've also had a couple of new reports, so I'll highlight those as well. Then I'm going to head over to Andy, who's going to take you into some of the reports in a bit more depth, and he'll be focusing on how you can use those insights that they bring to help you plan and perform better and predict with more accuracy. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or in the Q&A. The lovely Emily is here as always moderating for us, so she will pull those all together and we'll address them at the end of the session. So as a quick reminder, Mercury Analytics is available in either an essentials or an advanced package, and altogether we have about 16 pre-built reports, which is very soon to be 17, as I'll show you shortly. The essentials package, which you can see on the screen here, gives you all of those gives all of your key stakeholder groups essential data on recruitment and placement activity. Shows how performance compares to target against KPIs, activity with your clients, and how individual recruiters and teams are performing. It allows you to really dip your toes into the world of analytics and data and quickly see impacts. This package includes Power BI Pro licenses and you get 8 data refreshes a day. I've highlighted a couple of key new reports there for you. The consultant dashboard's brilliant. It gives consultants a view of how they're performing against KPIs, gives their placement and vacancy metrics, and is a key dashboard for managing day-to-day activities and has really clear calls to action. The pipeline velocity report gives you real insight into how long it's taking for candidates to progress through the recruitment pipeline at your organisation or down to business unit, team or even individual level, so you can spot where there are bottlenecks that might be costing you money. Now, the advanced package has all of those lovely reports from Essentials plus some additional ones, which really focus in on financial activities, vacancy level insight and contractor management. This includes the new placement overview, which shows you everything you need for new starter information. You'll see that with the advanced package, you can either have 8 data refreshes as you have with Essentials, or you can have 24 or 48 refreshes a day. Those latter ones come with a Power BI Premium license. If you want any more detail about those and how those refreshes work, talk to your customer success manager. They'll be happy to go through it all with you. And we also have a new, very, very new, not yet out to everybody report coming. We're working with customers on this forecasting report, and this is going to help you forecast more efficiently and effectively. This is going to be absolutely crucial, especially with the market as challenging as it is at the moment. You're going to be able to use your own data to help you see into the future, and Andy is going to talk to you a bit more about that shortly. And I just want to really quickly recap why analytics are so important. So the first is that these are designed for recruitment industries. They take into account the nuances of the industry, and they help you to report on the things that matter to you and your business. Let's face it, Power BI is a brilliant tool, but it's also really complicated. So with analytics, you get all of the power of Power BI, but the complexity is stripped out, and it just makes it really easy for you. You don't have to create and manage your own reports. They give you both a macro and a micro view of how your staff and your business is performing with granular insight. And you can see what's happening in the future, which is brilliant. What's happening now is great, but being able to predict future trends and trajectory makes it easy to plan and forecast accurately. And with that insight, you can understand your business better than ever before. You can view data across different metrics that matter to your particular organisation. And by understanding key consultant, client and candidate data, you can improve their experience, see where there's areas of best practice, and importantly, see where you might be able to provide additional support. And by identifying outlying performance indicators, you can see where problems may be about to happen and intervene and rectify them before they do so. And lastly, you can shine a light on your recruitment activity so that you get a true picture of how your consultants and your business is performing based on your data. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Andy now, who is going to take you through some of those key reports that you just saw. Andy, over to you.
Thank you very much, Jackie. I will just find the right screen to show everybody, and yeah, we'll get going. So hopefully you're all looking at one of the new reports, the one that Jackie mentioned just now. It's coming soon. We've actually been working with 3 or 4 of our customers in a sort of preview state for this report to get some early feedback. We're still making changes to it, but we're anticipating getting this out to everyone that's got the advanced package very, very soon. So I thought it'd be a perfect opportunity to just walk you through what's in it and why we feel it's going to be important. So essentially what you're looking at is this forecast report, the idea being we're trying to give you a sort of a clear data-driven snapshot of the gross profit you're making at the moment, but also potential future gross profit as well. There are 3 elements to it. As I said, there's the what you're making at the moment from your existing live placements. There's what you could reasonably expect to be making based on your vacancy pipeline, and I'll go into some detail about how we're assessing that. And then also when it comes to contract and temporary placements, the likelihood of extending those placements, and again, what you could reasonably expect to forecast forwards in terms of income that you could generate from them. The main chart that you can see on the screen here is a stack bar chart. We've got this concept of sort of above and below the line, where we're looking at where you've got money that's either being made or could be made, and then maybe where you're essentially leaving money on the table, the thing that's below the line. The objective being obviously to move as much of what's sitting below the line upwards above the line to recognise that profit. There's a few little elements to the screen I'll go through and then go into the real detail of what we're looking at. At the top there, we've got a bunch of headline numbers looking at what's above the line, what's below the line, and broadly how that's made up between placements and vacancies. You can see the different stack bars here. I'll just explode them to make it a little bit easier to see the sections. So you can see how they split out, and you can see what's sort of positively recognised income for contract and temp vacancies or perm vacancies, where your existing placements are, and then what we're forecasting negatively, i.e. below the line as well. The right hand side breaks down some of the logic that's used, and you can select any of those measures to see what the weightings that have been applied to them. And essentially what we're doing is looking at the gross profit for that vacancy or for that placement. We're looking at the start date and we're assessing when you're likely to make that money or not, and applying a weighting based on how far through the shortlist progress they are for the vacancies. You can filter it down by specific types if you prefer, just to look at contracts or temp or perm or a combination. But yeah, what we've done is try to provide the detail about where this is coming from and how you can take action to make better decisions based on what you're looking at here. So first of all, you've got the existing placements. These are really straightforward. So you can see the yellow ones are sections of the perm, and the nice pink ones are the contract or temp placements. And all of these have got drill throughs on them. So if I want to go and see what's making up that £2 million for September, basically on the data set for this, we're looking at last month, this month, and then the next 6 months, predicting forwards. You can change those. You can go a little bit further out. Obviously, as you go further out into the future, your existing placements are going to tail off with your contract and temp ones, and your vacancies numbers are going to dwindle as well, because it's based on what's currently in your Mercury environment right now. So this isn't hypothetical vacancies you may or may not win. I'll come back to that in a moment. This is based on what placements and what vacancies you've got in your system right now. So you can see a quick view there of exactly what the existing perm placements that were starting in September and how much they're making, which consultant's responsible for them, and so on. That's all fairly straightforward. This little eye icon, I'm sure most of you are familiar with in Mercury Analytics. Anywhere you see one of those eye icons is a link back to core, and you just click on that line item. It's going to take you directly to that record within your Mercury environment itself, out to Power BI, and open up in Mercury that vacancy record, that placement record, or that shortlist record, for example. So placements is dead easy. That's what you've got money coming in right now based on the placements that you've got and when they're likely to start. So you can see looking forward to December, there's currently placements worth 400,000, just under £369,000 due to start in December. But now we want to look at where could we be making money, where should we be making money, and where are we maybe not doing enough to make the money that we want to. So that's where the forecasting element comes in. So if I just pick on, say, let's look at some perm vacancies. So perm vacancies is the little blue section here. You can see the perm vacancies at the moment. We've got 66 and a bit £1,000 worth of vacancy income forecast. Now that's based on the logic that I showed you over on the right hand side. They're based on the shortlist stage. On this view, this first chart is just rolling them all up into one. Say, right, your in-flight perm vacancies, you're potentially going to make this much money out of. When you go through to the drill through, we're going to show you how that breaks down into different weeks within that month, when placements are likely to start if these vacancies get all the way through to placement, and where they're currently sitting at the moment, so you can decide what you need to do. And looking at this, the first and most obvious one is that you've got a placement that's due to start week commencing 16th of November that hasn't actually had any CV submitted for it yet. You can see it's worth over 20 grand. So what I might want to do is go and have a look who owns this and give them a nudge as to why this hasn't been progressed. If that vacancy, that vacancy has a start date on it of 19th of November and we haven't even submitted a CV yet, that's 20 grand we're essentially blowing. It's going down the toilet, it's being left on the table, we're not going to end up recognising that. The other vacancies that you can see making up this pot are at the different shortlist stages. So the blue one below the lines that require CVs. You can see the purple ones are ones where we have submitted CVs, green are at interview, pinks at offer, etc. If they were at further interview or final interview, you'd see those on there as well. The data I happen to be looking at hasn't got any of those. But again, when I go through to the drill through detail, for these vacancies, you can see the weighting that's been applied to it at 30%. You can see what the vacancy is. You can see what the overall gross profit would be, and therefore how much of that we're including in this forecast based on the weighting that's been applied. So this one in particular is what, £2,500 has been contributed towards that overall forecast. Same if I go to these offer ones and just drill through on those, you will see these should have a 90% weighting on them. There's only the one there, but yeah, of the total available 14 and a bit £1,000, it's forecasting at the moment the 12,800 based on 90% likelihood that you're going to win that vacancy, given that it's got all the way through to offer stage. So that's what we're doing with the vacancies. Contract temp works exactly the same way. Got similar weightings that have been applied to them, but we've also got extensions. So all your contract and temp placements, what we're doing is looking at the likelihood to extend field. And I know that has various degrees of usage. It's something I would highly encourage people to use if they're not already. We've got quite a bit of reporting actually in Mercury Analytics that comes back to that likelihood, likely to extend field, and whether you've got it set as not discussed or likely to extend, or you definitely know they're not going to extend. Excuse me. But again, that's something we wanted to build into this forecast. How many of these contract placements are likely to get extended based on the statuses that we know for those placements at the moment. So if I just drill into some of these, you'll see this is negatively weighted. It's 100% below the line, because we're essentially saying if you haven't discussed it with them, or if you have discussed the likelihood of extending these placements and they're not expected to extend, then they're going to be below the line. You're not going to make that money. Now, clearly, you can see the biggest opportunity here is with these ones that are not discussed. It's very likely that by having the right conversations with the right people, you're going to be able to move an awful lot of these placements into the above the line state by anticipating that they are going to get extended, or maybe they're not sure, but that's still better than not knowing. So yeah, it lets you find out exactly what these placements are. Again, you'll know exactly who owns them, so you know who's responsible for having those conversations, whether it's with the hiring managers or the current managers, to see whether there's a chance of getting these extended, or whether it's to have the conversations with the candidates themselves about whether they want to extend. But again, you can see all of the placements here. We've made some assumptions on this. We had various discussions about what would be the best way to assume the likelihood of the income that will come from this. We talked about, should we just assume an extension would be for 3 months, or should it be an arbitrary 6 months, something like that. The decision we've gone with in this first iteration is that we're assuming that an extension would last the same amount of time as the current contract length. So if it's a 6-month contract, we're assuming if it's extended, it's going to be for a further 6 months, and that's what's feeding into the profit forecast that we're applying. So again, you can see some above the line here, not very many in this case, but these have had the conversations. They're expected to extend. That's great news. You're expecting to make that money because you think that that placement is going to get extended. You know for how long. You know what the weekly gross profit is. Therefore, it's fair to assume you're going to make that money going forwards. One thing that we've just recently added to this as well is the ability to vary these ratings. As I said, we've picked what we think is a sensible starting point. So when you look at the forecast logic section on the right hand side here for perm vacancies, you can see, if a CV has been submitted, we're assuming, okay, that you might think it's sensible to say you're 30% likely to win that placement. If they get to interview, it's 40, further interview goes up to 60, 70, and up to 90 when they get to offer. But importantly, what you can do is now change those to suit your own business model, or what you believe to be realistic based on your knowledge of your organization. So it's really simple to change some of these. You might say, for example, actually, once we get to offer stage, we're pretty confident that that's going to end up in a placement more than 9 times out of 10. We might want to whack that up to 95% chance, and the same with the contract temp ones. Let's move them up to 95%. You might say, actually, these extensions, we're assuming initially that you're not going to make any money out of those because you haven't discussed, but you might say, well, that doesn't mean we're definitely not going to. Maybe we'll just put a nominal amount. We'll whack these up to maybe positive 10%. So I'll put this up to 10%. You can type directly into these boxes or just drag the sliders. It's really simple to use. And you'll see these ones I've changed. They've got not applied yet in brackets next to them, and the apply weightings button's been highlighted just to make it really clear that nothing's actually been submitted yet, but when I click this apply weightings button, it's going to take my new settings and it's going to apply that to everything you've just been looking at. So the main chart, all the drill throughs, all the tables that we were looking at will now have those applied to them. So if I just pop back to the main visual, you will now see those big chunks that were all sitting below the line that were based on extensions that hadn't been discussed have largely disappeared. We've still got some based on the vacancies that are in flight. We've still got a few little bits because they're the forecast extensions that we have discussed already and have been told they're definitely not going to extend. So you've still got a few below the line, but the majority of it's moved above the line. So if I now go into my forecast extension and I just drill through into those, what you'll now see is exactly that. All of those purple ones that were not discussed have moved above the line, and they're positive, but we've only applied a 10% weighting to them based on the settings that I just selected just now. So when you can see now, you go through to the not discussed, highlights the 10%, and you're looking at how much profit would be available based on extending those, and how much essentially we're forecasting based on that fairly low chance because you haven't even had the conversation yet. So clearly a lot of this is about driving. How do we move this stuff from below the line up to above the line? So, have I missed anything? I don't think so. So next steps for this, I guess, is the next thing. As I said, this is a first iteration. We've been talking to a few customers about this, got some really good feedback from them. Is what we do next with this. So there are lots of options, and we're kind of just focusing on selecting which ones we want to focus on. We want to take this forward. As I said initially, this is based on your current vacancies in your system, your placements that you have in your system. We want to take that prediction a step further and look at historical performance, look at seasonality, and look at what you've done in the past, and use that to predict a bit further ahead than maybe the next 3 or 6 months, which is really what ideal time frame for this kind of forward forecasting. So we want to be able to look at, I don't know, in January of last year, based on your headcount, you won X amount of vacancies, you managed to convert Y amount of those into placements, and that ended up with a gross profit of Z. And we'll look at that seasonality and be able to go, okay, so on that basis, we know that you've got this many vacancies in flight at the moment with a start date coming up in January, but how many additional vacancies are you going to be able to add in based on your previous performance at that time of year with that headcount and you know, all things being the same. So that's one area we want to look at. The next is we want to do some what if analysis. So we want to say, okay, your current conversion rate from vacancies to placement is, I don't know, 25%. If you can squeeze that up to 30%, what does that do to your bottom line? So again, looking at how much difference you can make and where you can apply that to have the most impact. Another version of that would be saying, I don't know, we made £2.5 million last year. We want to make £3 million this year. What are the levers we can pull, and what are going to have the most impact to improving that overall gross profit? They're all pots of investigation that we're doing at the moment that we're going to build into this report or the pages within this report to enhance it in the future. I'm actually really interested to hear views from our customers as well. Obviously, you guys know your businesses inside out, so really keen to get any input from that. Whether you do that through the community, you can always reach out to me directly as well. We've got the product ideas process that you can make suggestions through via your CSMs as well. If there are things that you really are keen to do, or you find really difficult at the moment because of the absence of having some data to drive those decisions, yeah, really keen to hear, because like I said, we've got a big pot of ideas that we want to focus on, and we will be moving forward and bringing more into this forecasting element in future. So yeah, keen to hear from you guys as well. So there's a little bit about predicting, I guess. The next stuff I wanted to talk to you about was planning. So one of the other new reports that Jackie mentioned was the permanent overview. What we've done with this, we took our old permanent starters report, which was fairly basic. We've enhanced that and brought it in line with some of the stuff we already provide for contract business. So we have contract starters reports, we've got lost revenue reports, where we're giving you a better view of what placements have been created, when are they starting, how much money is it making, what status are they at. You can see here the main visual within the permanent overview on this first page is all about starters. So that's telling you exactly how many placements you've got lined up to start each week, and how much money is being made from them. The purple line is the true gross profit that's coming from those placements. You can see the average for the bar, and it'll tell you how many placements are due to start in any one of these weeks. As with the other reports, you can always drill through into these and see the exact detail of any of these placements. So I know these are all the ones that are going to start this week. I can see all the details of them. I can link back to the placement record in Core if I want to. And we've got this column that's telling you how long it was between that placement being created, i.e. being accepted and turned into a placement, and when it's due to start, which does give you a bit of an idea of risk profile as well. You know, I can quickly just scan down this list and I can see this one's 68 days between the point where they've accepted it and when they're due to start. So I've got 2 and a bit months. They're probably working a 2-month notice maybe and having a week off before they start their new role. It would probably be a good idea to keep fairly close to this one and keep in contact with the candidate to manage that process to make sure they do turn up on day one. When you've only got 1 or 2 days, it's probably less likely that that's not going to happen. So yeah, that was looking at, as I said, the placements based on their start date. And the gross profit associated with them. It's really easy just to toggle that across to created date. I know different people monitor their gross profit different ways, and their volumes of starters. You might care about when they were created more than when they're due to start, but we've got both views here. It's really simple just to toggle that across. You got the breakdown by status down here as well. Again, we've aligned this, or you'll probably see in a second when I flick over to the other reports. With the contract ones, we've got very similar the contract related reports, but it's giving you the idea of, okay, of these placements that we've got lined up for this year, how many are live, how many are waiting start. You've got 30 pending here. Again, there might be that there's a bit of nudging to do. You might want to go into here and see exactly who's doing what with these, who are the consultants that own these placements that are still sitting in pending, and what needs to be done to get some of these moving. Do I need to give Walter a bit of a nudge to get some paperwork done or get these approved and get them through the process quicker? So you got those breakdowns by status on the left. On the right hand side, we're looking at profit and we're looking at volumes, and you're just giving you a quick breakdown as things stand across your teams. So the combined gross profit that coming from these placements based on a team by team basis, and you can switch it across to site easily enough, and the same with the volumes as well, as you can see who's generating the most placements and how much they're worth comparatively across your teams or your sites. The other page of this is lost revenue, particularly relevant with permanent placements. Obviously, you've got somebody and it's worth an awful lot of money to you as and when they start, and you can get them invoiced. If they don't start, that's a problem. So what we've got here is a view of permanent placements that were due to start at various times, and then why they haven't. So we've got the breakdown here of the reasons they might not be starting. You've got the candidate didn't start, but you've got other reasons for cancelling as well, and you can drill into these. If I want to look at these 15 candidates did not start for whatever reason, it might be, but there's some trends there. I might want to have a look. Oh dear, that's not good. That's one of mine. I've obviously done something wrong and not stayed close to that, and that person hasn't started. But yeah, you can see they're the 15 candidates that didn't start that were expected to in these permanent roles, and how much it's cost us essentially because of that. We've got breakdowns at the bottom, again, very similar to the contract equivalents, where we're showing you the impact on by clients as well. So these are the top 5 losses by client based on these placements that haven't happened, and same by consultant. So it might be that there's hotspots or trends, or again, individuals you might want to give a nudge or a little bit of encouragement or performance management to around the number of candidates they're not having start, or things that are getting cancelled for whichever reasons. So that's the permanent overview. As I said, it's kind of aligned with the contract versions we already had. If I just flick down to here to the contract starters report, you'll see, oh look, it looks relatively similar. That's not it, that's the perm one still. Go to contract starters, it's very similar though. You'll see a similar breakdown of when are these contracts due to start, how much money is it making, what's the breakdown by status, and so on. And there we go, very, very similar. You can show or hide extensions to include them or not based on your business preferences. But the other one I want to go into is the lost revenue, because we've done a bit more work on this, again, in the vein of how do we plan ahead a little bit rather than retrospectively just review our numbers. So the lost revenue report that I'm just loading up here for you. This has a number of pages. The first one's, again, very, very similar. You're looking at overview. This is contract intent ones that didn't start for whatever reason, whether they were terminated early. There's subsequent breakdowns between the non-starters or the early terminations that you can go into. Again, very similar visuals. It's all about the weekly gross profit loss by clients or by consultants. You've got the different categories. Some of them terminated because the client served notice, they didn't want to continue with that particular person. You might want to look into that, and if maybe people aren't placing the right candidates with the right organisations, or is it that the candidate themselves wasn't good enough. But you can dig into that further. The revenue variation page is the one I want to move on to though. The key point being here that whether it's this overview, which is a combination of the non-starters or the early terminations, this is based on a status change. You can see that the categories tell us this has been moved to cancelled, client cancelled. This has been moved to cancelled, candidate did not start. So that's after the events happen. So it's good that we're recording that and you understand where money is being lost. But we had some feedback from one of our customers actually that was telling us about their desire to have visibility of that before it actually happened. So if I just flick into the report, sorry, jumping around all over the place here. Excuse me. Yeah, go to the lost revenue report. The revenue variation page is the one that we've added to this one. And this one gives you a view of things that are going to happen before they've actually happened in a way. So rather than being dependent on those contract or temp placements actually coming to an end and therefore the status ticks around to the fact that they are now cancelled, this is looking at, we have changed the end date. So this first one, this incoming losses, is looking at where the business process is that you've got a contract that you know is going to finish earlier than you originally expected. So someone's actually going in and changing the end date on that placement. The other pages wouldn't know about that because, again, we're looking at the status. That status is still live, it's still running. But we do know as a business that person isn't going to be in that role for the entirety of the contract that we initially thought they would be. So this is looking at where those end dates have actually moved and they've come forwards. So you've got placements that are ending early and how many of them and how much is it costing you. Now, this is set on a weekly basis. I've gone a bit extreme just for the sake of a demonstration here, and I've set this to 52 weeks in the future. You might not look that far ahead. You might want to. I think you can go up to 2 years if you really want. But I've done this just to show you sort of demo purposes. If I click on any of these and the incoming losses here, again, you'll see that there is really easy navigation to go straight through and see, okay, what are these placements? How much is the weekly gross profit? And so how much per week are we going to be losing because the dates have changed? So you can see where they were originally planned to finish and when they're actually going to end now. And they've all come forwards. So for this one, for the number of weeks this has been moved forwards, you're going to be losing £280 every week, 440 for this one, and so on and so on. So it's not waiting till you get to the end of that placement. It gets cancelled, then suddenly you go, oh, hang on, we've just now lost retrospectively X amount of money. It might be that there's still conversations that can be had to prevent that getting lost in the first place. But at least you've got that visibility so you know what's coming down the tracks. You can split these. Obviously, we've got client and consultant views similar to the ones we spoke about earlier, so you can slice it different ways. The bottom half of this is the deferred revenue. So this is looking at where your start dates actually move back and what the impact of that will be. So if you're not getting your paperwork done quick enough, you're not onboarding people fast, the compliance isn't getting done, it's probably less likely to be compliance related or ID related, for example, with contracts, but everything moves very quickly in the contract world. So things moving back will definitely have an impact on your money and when it's coming in, when you're expecting it to or not. Again, daft example, this is literally just one placement that I've done just for demonstration purposes. But the idea of this bottom visual here would be that you're looking at your sort of steady stream of revenue from your contract and 10 placements and how much of that revenue that you're getting on a weekly basis is coming as you'd expected it. So the green stuff, that's coming in exactly during the period that contract was supposed to run for. But are there elements where you're down, you're on income that you would have expected to make had that contract started on time? And then the flip side of that is at the far end of it, if it's just shunted to the right, if it's just moved along and it's been delayed start, but the contracts remain the same length, then you're going to have elements of income coming in at the end that potentially you weren't expecting. Again, when you factor in many placements and the fact that these dates do move around a bit, it will be beneficial to have that sort of stacked view of, you'll have an overall amount of gross profit for each of these weeks, and you'll see the breakdown on these hover overs when there's multiple in the same one. I think if I show on here, actually, you can see that you've got only £285 of expected. The other 1,700 is because of the deferral. This is one placement. It was supposed to start in May. It's been delayed by a week. It's starting now at the end of the first week of June. So there's a whole week there of £2,000 worth of money that I was expecting to be making for the week commencing 31st of May, which I'm not. The contract's then going to run all through these weeks as expected, and then at the back end of that, you're just going to get, I think it's the odd day there, and then the other 6 days will be essentially that deferred revenue that you're making that you weren't expecting, and then that's the last day, and that contract runs its course. But again, as I say, I think it's just trying to give you a picture of exactly what's going on and what are the pots that are made up for each of these areas of the placements. How much of that is money that you always thought you're going to make? How much of it are you down where you're expecting to be? Because there could be multiple of these and it could be delayed by weeks, months, hopefully not that long. And then how much of that income at the end, even right now, are you making is actually deferred income? It's not sort of real, if you like. It's been bumped back, so it's not extra. So that's just a quick view of this new page that we've added to the existing lost revenue report for contract only. We'll come back to performance stuff and we'll talk again about new reports. So pipeline velocity report, which is one that I'm not sure how many of you have seen, so we'll give you a quick overview of this. And when it loads up, there's 2 pages to this. So the first one is trying to give you a really quick snapshot view of how long it takes you to move through the pipeline. So we've got some headline numbers here, basically saying from vacancy created until placement start date for permanent, what's the average number of days it takes for that to happen? And the same for contract and temp here. The first section here we've got is the vacancy to acceptance part of the journey, which I guess is the one that's probably got the consultant's got the most control over that. You can't control the start date, but you can control how fast you're moving through the process to some extent. So this one's fixed as vacancy to acceptance. It's giving you the averages there for month on month for both perm and for contract. You've got the averages over on the right hand side, and if you just want to look at one or the other, again, you can just click on that and it will just focus on the ones you care about the most. The interesting one down the bottom here is that you can select which part of the journey you really want to focus on. So here we've got vacancy created to submission. So how long is it taking you to get those first CVs sent off on average across your organization? You can filter this same as with any of the reports. If you just want to focus down to a specific team or an individual or a site or anything like that, you can do that. This is the default as it's showing everyone here, but I can change this. So if I want to go from vacancy created to submission and I want to look at something like, I don't know, offer to acceptance, again, you're going to get the just based on those stages, based on the shortlist progress and the time taken, and it'll update the averages depending on which one of these you select. So yeah, date interviewed to actual interview date. This is where we'll get into some interesting nuances with data, because you see a lot of these are negative. I'll highlight that on the details page actually. But yeah, this is where people might not be following the process as expected, and they're backdating things. But if I move on to the details page, give you a better view of that. So this is overall looking at your whole operation and broadly what's going on. If I just change this to team to start off with, what we're doing here now is giving you a comparison view. So as Jackie mentioned, I think at the beginning, you can view between business unit or site or primary team or consultant, and you want to be able to directly compare performance. So these bar charts here are showing you the average number of days to move from one stage to the next. So vacancy created to submission is the blue one. Then you've got submission to interview arranged till interview actually happening, and so on and so on. There's a whole bunch of different things you can flip between permanent contract. You can view this by shortlist owner or by vacancy owner, because obviously different organizations work different ways, and you might have it might be the shortlist owners is more relevant to you because you've got different people doing different parts of the journey, or it might just be the overall vacancy owner and you want to look at their performance in terms of throughput. We'll just go on to the consultant one for now, and I'll just whittle this down a little bit because there's an awful lot of people on that chart. Let's just pick a team. There we go, nice simple view. So yeah, this is telling you the average number of days. So it's really obvious. You can have a quick look through here and go, okay, so between vacancy and submission, why is it maybe that Bertram here is getting his CVs off within a day and a half, whereas it's taking Louis almost twice that time to get the CV sent off for the same type of vacancies. Easy trends to spot. You can see a few things here. You might even be, as I said, you spot things in the data. So you can see generally you would expect the time between an interview being arranged and that interview happening to not be negative. However, we know people do, get busy, and sometimes they retrospectively add in these things in. And you can see here, for example, Louis, this is negative. It's saying it's taking less than half a day to get that interview to happen. I can check on that. I can go quickly to the drill through. I can look at all these vacancies, and most of them are all right. They're either on the day or the next day, but I can see down the bottom here, he's got a few where this is actually telling me that the interview happened 7 days after the interview was arranged. Sorry, 7 days before the interview was arranged even. So yeah, little bits of admin that will help smooth the process. You can identify that. You can go and check the records. But yeah, come back to the main purpose of it. It gives you that really easy comparison, whether it's at individual level or team level, to see who's doing what well. You might spot that there are people that are doing a fantastic job, and you want to dig into that and understand what they're doing and share that best practice around between the team. It might be that you look at someone and some of these periods are much longer than you'd expect or that you'd like to be, and you want to address that as well. So yeah, that's pipeline velocity. I'm conscious times, I'm not going to go into that anymore because quickly I do want to show you a little bit more. So let's go to the performance versus target report. This one is, again, in terms of monitoring your performance, it's probably one of the single most important reports. It's got the whole team level on it. We've made some significant enhancements to this report over the last few months. So the team level hasn't changed massively. So it's the individual level I want to talk about mainly on this. But because the demo gods are cursing me at the moment, it's taking a wee while for this to load up. There we go. So yeah, I'm sure again a lot of you will be familiar with the performance versus target report. What you're looking at is you've got a whole bunch of sections here. You've got interchangeable KPIs that you can set targets for individuals. You've got the team view. This is people with that KPI that's being targeted on that frequency. I've got my 5-minute warnings popped up, so I'm going to do this very quick page and then I will shut up so that we can answer.
Andy, you've muted.
You know,
Yeah, we can hear you now.
managed to knock the wire out of my headphones. Sorry, got all excited. And now it's telling me the page isn't responding. Double bonus. Right. I don't know what's going on here. Refresh it. Yeah, I wanted to highlight the individual page. This used to just be six dials on a page. It's still telling me it's not responding, which is marvelous. I don't know if there's a problem with the service at the moment. I'll give that a minute. While it's doing it, I'll just tell you what we've done so we can show you when it comes up. So yeah, it used to just be 6 dials. It was just the KPIs and how each of the team members is performing. What we've done now is essentially brought in the consultant dashboard, which has all sorts of additional information in it about vacancies for that individual consultant. They've got in their pipeline. It's got how they're performing to their individual targets. It's got their recent business development activity. Right, this is dying. Here's one I made earlier. The data probably won't be very helpful in this one, but at least you'll get to see it. Let's go straight to the individual view. Yeah, we've essentially replicated the consultant dashboard into the individual view so that a manager having a one-to-one can see all of the information. Some of the highlights I wanted to pick out really were we've added history into this, so you can now see an individual or a team's history of performance against their target. We have added in a team ranking as well, so a consultant can compare how they're getting on against all of their peers in their team, and it looks like Power BI is completely crashed because nothing seems to be working. Oh, here we go. We were in to the team view. I'm going to skip straight to the individual view. No, demo gods are definitely not happy.
Never work with live systems, children or animals.
No, perfect, isn't it? I'll share some screen. Yeah, I think there may be a problem with the Power BI service or something because I'm getting all sorts of horrible messages, and now it's taking forever. But yeah, you can now see it's not just the KPI dials that you can see. So I can select an individual as their manager and review their performance. I'll be able to see their performance to target on their dials. I can see how many interviews they've got coming up. We made these sections editable. These are initially based on config, so your config settings for your organization that will dictate what these time periods are. But then you can manually change it. So if you just want to look at the last 2 weeks or this week, or you want to look at the next couple of weeks or next 4 weeks, you can change those. All the numbers will update. But you can see here we've added the ranking in. So this person's only in a team of 1, so they're first on all of theirs, which is why I wanted to use the other environment with the better data. You can see a quick comparison to how they got on last month for each of their KPIs. And then you can also see the history as well. So if I just click on this, given it's taking forever to do anything, it might not work. But I can view the history, which is where you'll see the target over time and how this person's got on each month against their target over time. And we've got a team version of that. But I'm conscious we've now got 2 minutes left, and I apologise for running over and having technical difficulties. But if there's any questions I can answer and we have time for, I will happily do so.
No problem, thanks, Andy. I really liked the way you were talking about the forecasting report. I think that's going to be great, and I love the fact that you've really involved people who are already using analytics to get their feedback on it as well. So really excited to see where that goes next. I think the next steps sound really exciting. It doesn't look like we've got any questions, Emily. No, so I'll quickly.
My job is easy today.
I'll quickly steal the screen back and just tell you a couple of more things. So, as always, I can't let you go before I shout out our wonderful community, which has recently had a facelift. If you aren't already a member, then please reach out to the lovely Tony and he will set you up. It's got all of the news information. You can get insights from other Mercury users and from members of the Mercury team. And it's also a great place to get involved when you've got ideas about the product. As Andy says, we're always looking for that sort of information, and the community is a brilliant way to do that. And we've got the knowledge base, which is full of useful information on how to get the best out of Mercury. Please bookmark that. We add new things all the time. And lastly, you can now subscribe to these customer webinars. So you just scan the QR code and you'll be taken through to a registration page. You only need to subscribe once, and then you'll get automatic invites to every session. You don't need to register each time. And if you can't attend, that's absolutely fine. You'll still get the video sent out to you afterwards. But it means that you never miss out on a session like today. So all that's left for me to say is, oh, we've got a chat. We've got something in chat. Oh, it's Andy. Brilliant. All that's left for me to say is thank you so much to everyone for joining today. Thank you, Andy, for a fantastic demo. I always love seeing you present analytics. I think it's really interesting to see how you talk about it. So thank you so much for that. And Emily, thank you for helping and for being moral support. Always appreciated. Thanks, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you all soon.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye.